Oh, no.
We're not Pokemon. We're not Peggy 18 yet.
It's like in JPEG Mafia sponsorship. Oh, man. They said basically the one thing they've seen on chat is that people can't read these, so we'll talk about it. We'll talk about who we are, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess we have to do the...
Wait, mine just says... Am I not good there?
No, you're good.
I
Okay.
think you're good. Very reachable.
Yeah. If you search on Instagram @Blue, you'll just find this.
That and a bunch of love memes.
Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah. God, I wish I could have @Blue. Oh my god.
I had somebody in the social media pinner earlier who was like in 2008 when like Twitter started animating Among Us, and it went viral last year.
Oh my
I'm
god.
like, and they're like, how do I capitalize on that? And I was like, literally post your content.
Yeah.
Read your thoughts.
You will be known as the Among Us guy, but if you're cool with that, go for it.
They just comment that just says bump once a day.
Bump.
Oh, you're
Oh,
oh yeah.
yes.
You can change the
Yeah.
valve on it.
I was like, well, deep fry your profile picture and
Yeah.
repost it with like predicted Among Us, and you'll be
Yeah. See, I've just been finding in the sincere attractathon to be brilliant. It's worked wonders. Sometimes I will look up and just be like,
I will say, I think
weird. Yeah.
since we were on
Fair enough. Okay.
but again, I actually, no, you know what? I think Twitch probably did. Make sure to use your Germgo bye-bye juice, but do not drink the Germgo bye-bye juice.
yes.
That's how you get rid of all your internal germs.
Yeah. It's some internal germs.
Sorry, 99.9% of
Yeah.
your internal
All of
germs.
them. All of them.
God.
All of
Yeah.
I have no voice.
No.
Bro, me neither.
all
It's
days.
Friday.
It's all
It's
days.
Friday and I
leave
So,
Tuesday.
so have this
Oh
built
my
in.
god. You came in on Tuesday? You said?
I got here on Wednesday. Well, I
Okay.
leave Dragon on Tuesday. I'm going to Glass Animals, and then I leave on Thursday.
Sorry,
No, heck.
No way.
Yeah,
No way.
so they had it at the heck,
sorry.
what is it called? There was a venue downtown here that they had it at, but they moved it outdoors, and I was like, "What?" Yeah. So I'm gonna go.
I saw them back in 2016 at the Social. Yeah, it was like a $12 ticket. Oh yeah,
I would have gone. Yeah.
it was so good.
I know Paris is touring. I miss Paris. Yeah, I saw Paris at work. I'm glad that they're doing the pop stuff. Yeah, getting away from the yelly kind of stuff. Which I mean, it did well back then, but it's you go on.
1 minute.
If you want like a real soft 80s and
Yeah, right. If you want to get really low, yeah, dude, you have the beautiful baritone, but it's
Silky, dulcet.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are 30 seconds out from the wonderful panel you are sitting at. Please silence your phones and get ready for a world of action.
Please keep your cat boys out of the aisle at all times.
Silence your collar bells.
No heats are allowed in the room.
Do not knock things off of our table.
I will say, if you're comfortable coming a little closer on that side, just leaving some space open in case people do jump in. But otherwise, we're gonna get started. The name of this panel, to make sure you're in the right place, is how to use your useless skills to raise thousands of dollars for charity. And so, if you're in the wrong place, please stay. Don't leave.
You're ours now.
Yeah,
You are now in the right place.
Yeah. Before you, I have assembled a team of very useless skilled people, which is really exciting because we're going to be able to talk to you guys about those useless skills and the steps that we've made to be able to use them to do things that we're actually like very proud of, and hopefully so can you. So that's kind of the hope of this. There will be some Q&A at the end. I do ask that you hold your questions to the end, but when we get to them, be as specific or anything as you want. We would really love to try to help you as best as we can to do some cool stuff. Do some cool stuff for charities, like we've been lucky enough to do. So that's my spiel. Before I get into anything else, I'm going to introduce to you the cast of uselessly skilled people, and I'll do left to right from the camera side. So I'm going to start with you, Gabriel.
My name's Gabriel Perez. You can find me at Instagram at Amethyst Audiomancer. And should we say why we're here?
Yeah, well, who are you? I guess
I'm a professional audio engineer for the Quid Pro Roll podcast, professional dungeon master, and professional goofball who I have raised somewhere over the $20,000 area for various charities and things like that. So,
huzzah!
I'm here.
Huzzah! Yeah, we can clap.
A nice round of applause.
Thank you.
No corners.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. Oz, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Oz. I'm at the Viking Media on Instagram, Twitter, wherever your little rectangle will bring you. I have done lots of art and writing for various tabletop games. I've had the pleasure of streaming with Alain and Vi on Goblins and Growlers last year to raise just over $5,000 for various bail funds during the massive Black Lives Matter movement of 2020.
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
It's a fantastic fun team.
And to my left, camera right, is Vi.
Hello, I'm Vi. I'm Vicious Frockery on all of the social medias. I did work with Oz and Alain on Goblins and Growlers. We did a campaign that was super Swedish black metal called a system called Morkborg. I now stream tabletop games with Gut Punch RP. We raise money for I Need Diverse Gaming every Monday morning with a ongoing stream called Laurelwind, and then every other Thursday and every other Friday with two other campaigns that we are starting last month or this month. So we did a bunch of charity stuff, but most notably raised $3,000 in a month for St. Jude Play Live. So that's what I do.
Yeah, and that's at Gut Punch, right?
At Gut Punch RP on the Twitch and the Twitter.
And my name's Alain. I'm with the Inclusive Community Through Tabletop Gaming Collective, Goblins and Growlers, out of Richmond, Virginia. We are a professional GM collective that are looking to lower the barrier to entry to tabletop games. And then I perform on the Quid Pro Roll podcast, and then I do some improv performances otherwise, including with conventions. And we're going to just we've given you this quick, some of the cool things that we've been able to do we've been lucky enough to do for charities. And we're going to now we're going to go back in time, and we're going to identify our useless skills. And hopefully they're skills that some of you guys can connect with, or at the very least use as an arbitrary metaphor for some of the useless skills that you feel that are things that you're really excited about and have fun doing, but maybe have not quite figured out exactly how to use that in ways to either pursue some professional dreams or even some charitable things. So we're going to start with Gabriel.
Geez. All right.
Yeah, useless skills.
Useless skills. Many of my useless skills in the last maybe 5 or 6 years, I have found fun uses for them. But for a long time, they were very much being able to do very quick research on things. In high school and middle school, learning how to learn did not seem super pertinent, but turns out when you're an adult and you need to learn an entirely new system overnight, it's a very useful skill.
There you go.
And just things like that. Also, talking in front of people. It was at a different convention as a toddler, getting up on stage with a Rocky Horror production and dancing with them. And from there on, I've just really enjoyed being in front of people and being silly. And apparently that's a useful thing too nowadays. I think.
Oz, what are some
pass that down? That
useless skills?
Oh, man.
Where
do I start?
Right, I'm just so useless. I pride myself on being able to talk to anyone about anything. I've spent many years as a bartender or a lighting designer or somewhere in between, wherever those worlds collide.
A well-lit bar.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, man, if you want your bartenders to look amazing, call me. So when it's talking to someone about just whatever may be going through on throughout their week, or talking to a client about how they want their show to look, or anything like that, I love being able to talk to anyone about anything, and that's gotten me fairly far. And talking to people in the tabletop gaming community in our Morkborg role-playing game on Twitch, I was able to get the artist for any award-winning Morkborg system, Johan Noor, onto our stream just to talk for a while, talk about gaming, talk about streaming, talk about art. And just, I love talking to people. I love interviewing people, and it's gotten me where I am today.
Yeah, and I'm gonna step in and really try to lift you up by identifying more useless things about you.
There's so many.
Yeah, I think also one of the things that you maybe don't give yourself enough credit for is your beautiful baritone voice, which is really, really good on mic. And the other thing is that you definitely, both you and Gabe, put a lot of thought and energy into creating worlds and creating kind of spaces where maybe when we were kids and people were like, oh, they're very imaginative, but as you get older, people kind of are like, that's please be more present, be more adult or whatever. But that's definitely...
on that first part, that's all of our engineers over here. They just crank the bass up on my voice, make me sound amazing. So great job to these guys.
Audio team is amazing.
EQ is bottom heavy.
And Alain, talk about yourself, my friend.
No, first it's Vi, and then it's me.
My God.
Yeah, I'm a moderator. I legally,
I legally cannot be perceived at this time. My useless skills in raising money for charity, I realized that I think through the Morkborg campaign that I really enjoyed being a storyteller. I really, really enjoyed writing small pieces of stories that I feel are easy to identify with and that are especially queer experiences that are people are able to step into and kind of go, oh, that's me. And that has reached every single piece of my brand. And as a costumer and as a cosplayer, it's common for people to kind of use their platforms as an activist and as somebody who, really lives and breathes in those spaces. So I took my ability to tell a good story and kind of spun people into being able to apply themselves into situations that they wouldn't normally sit in and think about them, and then turn that into a motivator to donate to charity or to get people interested in stories and just attend them. So that way you're giving your free money or your free business bucks to a charity repeatedly over and over again, because you've invested yourself and your time and your the things that you love kind of in the same space. So I've personally sold a bunch of costume prints, which sounds like very self-involved, but I've raised more than $4,000 over the last calendar year for various charities doing that, because people will, spend $5 if it means that it goes all to a charity. And then, on the storytelling side, I've been able to sort of get people interested in the pieces of art that are non-physical and non-visual that you can tell, even if you're not able to draw or able to put a costume together. Being able to share your wealth and share your experience and share who you are as a person and apply that to a charitable expenditure or a charitable journey, then they can sort of walk side by side with you as you do that. So that's my useless skill. I'm
going to also add another useless skill to you. Because I want to lift you up by bringing you down. And, I love that. You and Oz, both as cosplayers and people who've been very active in the cosplay community. For those of you who are at Dragon Con and at the convention, I know that one of the things that we value here at Dragon Con is people able to create in our tangible flesh world something that looks like it's out of something from a piece of media that we love, whether it's an amazing low-key cosplay or cat voice. But being able to create and many of you guys probably have gone through the same trials and tribulations that we have, where there was a period of time where creating a cosplay, people would be like, why? Yeah. Why? What a useless. Oh, yeah. What does that do? Yeah.
It's me. I'm people.
What are you giving to people by making a costume?
Yeah. And a lot of times it's for ourselves, but it's become something that again allows us to connect with audiences, and a lot of times connect with people to tell stories and to loop into these charitable experiences. For my useless skills outside of moderating. No, I definitely I went into how I got into being a professional GM. Like some of the very original early days was I used to GM for a TNR group that to raise money for cat charities. Believe it or not, I know you wouldn't think that looking at me. But and then later I got more involved with doing cat charity work through Central Perk Cat Shelter in Richmond, and doing some more. And Gabriel helped me to do. We've got cat drawings over here because of the creators. We have. So
nothing warms hearts more than playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons surrounded by cats, and also surrounded by people that are excited to give money to cats.
Yeah.
Just to talk about how great Alon is. A few years ago, I was in Richmond while I was traveling up to Maryland, and I am deathly allergic to cats. Like, I can feel my throat swelling, my eyes closing. He was like, "Hey, I'm running a game for charity at the local cat shelter. Are you in?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm down." So I'm rolling dice, and I'm just like, "Tell me what it says. I can't see it. Let's go."
He brought 2 bottles of Benadryl and a big heart.
That's all you need, really.
Yeah, and I did a lot of growing up. I did a lot of improv comedy. That's something that is a skill that, of course, when you're young, you're like, this is super cool. And in the right audiences with the right people, it's really fun and awesome. But then you're in the real world and you say something and people are like, wait, is that a joke? And, they're like, wait, you did improv? Be funny. Do improv. And
right
you're like,
now.
oh, God.
I don't want to.
And from being a kind of a performer and a public speaker, and then somebody who just did a lot of TNR with cats and just wanted to figure out a way to, I don't know, just make cats' lives a little bit better, because I was like, I was really depressed at the time and felt like if I could just make one cat's day, then that would make my day. I started to think about, okay, well, what are these useless things that I do that I can hopefully bring and find, even if it's a person or 5 people, or find a little audience to create a charitable experience to give back to these cats. And now it's snowballed into having the resources to do some of the really cool things that we've gotten to do. Speaking of the really cool things that we've gotten to do, I know we highlighted some of the charitable efforts that we've been able to do to kind of embark on, but now I'm going to let us to expand on those, and hopefully by expanding on those, giving you some perspective on like the snowball effect of like, here's how this started and here's where it is now, because I do think it's really important to remember. Vi put it perfectly. Maybe if you try to sell your art, maybe somebody doesn't buy it because they're just like, there's a lot of amazing artists out there. There's so much amazing art. I don't know if this is going to put me over the edge to make me like want to purchase this. But when they know that the money is going to a really good cause, a lot of times it's like, that art is really cool, and I'm really glad to support this. And so those come together, and now this art means something more than just the piece that it is. Now it means I'm also supporting a kid or a hospital or something that means more to me. Or a cat. And I think that that's a really important thing to keep in mind, because if you don't cross the arbitrary threshold that we've set as a society of like what makes you a professional, or what makes you somebody who like is allowed to like make a living doing a weird thing, like being a game master or an artist or a cosplayer or whatever, it can be really hard to get buy-in. But if you're doing it for charity and something that you truly believe in, you can get that buy-in. So let's hear some of the stories about getting that buy-in and creating something. And again, I'll reverse the direction this time, if you don't mind, and I'll start with Vi.
Okay. Rephrase the question for me one more time, just so that I have it right.
Yeah.
For me to start words.
Yeah. One of my useless skills is being confusing.
No.
Yeah. No. How did you take kind of like these passions?
How did it start?
Yeah. And how to snowball into what they are now, like the things that you've been able to.
Okay.
Panic.
Yodeling.
Yeah.
So,
great skill right there.
First I yodeled. And then I am a transgender queer person living in Orlando, a Latino transgender queer person living in Orlando. And that meant that I moved to Orlando in 2014, and then 2 years later, Pulse happened. And that, if you have not been radicalized by the world's events in the last 10 years, but it really hit me. It really struck a chord, because it was an event in which I felt a little unsafe on the street and a little bit like, oh, heck, I got to do a thing about this, because sitting on my hands didn't feel right anymore. So I got really involved with a bunch of local charities. And since then, I started doing other hobby things that were just little parts of my life. So I volunteered with a couple of queer shelters and a couple of queer charities. And I involved myself and got myself really versed there. And then when I started cosplaying, I networked and I made a bunch of connections with other people, including the Central Florida Costumers Guild, who do things for charity. And charity has always been a piece of the puzzle in the stuff that I make and the way that I move about the world, because of the people that I know and love who also spend the energy and time and brain cells doing that. So when 2020 began and 2020 happened, and we all kind of went, we all need to work really hard and, act more as a collective. I think that everybody can identify with the way that we started to kind of step away from the individual in March of 2020 and throughout the rest of the year. A lot of opportunities popped up for me to kind of say, okay, I have the brain cells, I have the energy, and I have the creative spirit to involve myself on these projects. And as they popped up, I went, okay, I am willing to spend money and time and effort on these things, even if they don't directly benefit myself, because I can wrap my own work and my own brand and my own passions into this, and it fits in with the rhythm of the rest of my life. So that's kind of the way that I approach things, and kind of how I feel like I tripped and fell into being somebody who is an activist and who is incredibly passionate about this stuff. But it is a piece of the puzzle and a piece of the rhythm of how I make and what I do and how I speak and the way that I like to connect with other people. So I think that is something that Alain is really good at also, is being able to connect people and say, hi, you cool person that I know and you cool person that I know. What if we worked on this thing together because charity? And you're really good at that.
Yeah.
I think you should go next.
Yeah, you highlighted something I think is really important, which is I've also tripped and fallen into a lot of what I've been able to do, and I feel like that's a universal
trip and fall into your passions.
Yeah,
trip and fall forward.
There you go.
you try to fall up.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Yeah. But I think one of the things that, like I said, I started out I was really depressed. I felt like if I could just get this one little thing, then who knows what could happen. I didn't ever think that it would be I could actually start big charitable efforts and raise thousands of dollars for VCU Children's Hospital, for bail funds with these amazing people, with cat TNR shelters,
cat charities.
Yeah, and then also with side by side LGBTQ plus rehousing for those who are homeless. All that stuff. In a way, it's snowballed out from just me just trying to say I'm a performer. I can get out there, and if I say it's for charity, people will invest in me and will give me a little bit more benefit of the doubt, which is one of the things that I would most highlight from my experience that hopefully you can take away, is that if you're trying to build a personal brand, I wasn't, but I lucked into it. But if you are trying to doing things for charitable efforts that you feel passionate about and that connect with, especially if it connects with your story and it's something that why you feel passionate about it is because you've gone through it. It's invaluable. It's going to connect you with the right community, and once you connect with the right community, you can say, hey, I have this idea and it's really cool, and I'm lucky enough to know a handful of these people, so do you want to come and try to make this work? And so I've become a bit of an arbiter. Is that the word?
Oh, absolutely.
Arbiter is a great word.
Okay, I've become a bit of an arbiter.
Monarch, even.
I've become a king of just kind of using my connections that I've lucked into to try to bring people to these charitable efforts.
I think the technical term for that is talent manager.
There you go, yeah.
You're the tour manager here.
Unfortunately,
oh my
gosh, that sounds technically a talent manager.
If I'm a manager,
which is for sure one of his skills is useless or useful, is recognizing a person's skill set and recognizing where that person can shine.
Now, I think talentless manager is even more impressive. When Alain came to me, and I'm just I don't know what I'm doing, but let's go.
So my personal story evolved out of that, and kind of just saying if I can just do a little thing, and then it continued to grow and grow. And through that, I found myself. And in finding myself, I managed to find more like-minded people like the folk up here with me. And then talking again about just kind of like where you started, what passions you pursued that got you to where you are, to the projects that you got to work on. Oz.
So, I mean, real quick, Vi mentioned having the brain cells to do the charitable things and everything like that. And as someone with maybe one brain cell on a good day, when I started the Morkborg charity campaign, I wanted to go to someone with the brain cells to help. So, of course, I went to Vi to assist with that. And I wouldn't be anywhere without Alain, my main man right here. But talking about where I got to, or where I was before I got here, I spent a lot of my youth, my teen years, volunteering with the local Special Olympics in Orlando. My mother, being the absolute angel that she is, has worked with children with different learning disabilities for her entire life. And I, as soon as I could, came on as a volunteer coach for the local Special Olympics. And that just brewed something inside of me as a young person to just want to get out there and help people, just be there for people. And with 2020 being what 2020 was, around February, March or something like that, I found out, this fantastic game, Morkborg, and I've been playing D&D for 10 years at that point. I found this fantastic rule system, and I shot a text to Alana. I was like, this game is all about the end of the world. We're in the middle of the pandemic, as dark as that may sound. Let's start a stream and raise money for charity.
Let's destroy the world for charity.
Exactly.
Yes. And hopefully have some levity.
Yeah. And it absolutely started as a COVID relief charity stream, splitting the funds between the food bank in Richmond.
Yeah.
And
Feed More, they're amazing.
Feed More, fantastic. Yeah. And a Central Florida group called... it's been 16 months. I'm blanking on the name. That's a shame.
3D print.
They did printing the curve flat. There we go.
Yep.
And they would print a lot of PTE equipment for frontline professionals, medical professionals, people like that. So we split the funds between that. And then around April is when there was the massive Black Lives Matter movement. And with everything that was happening, we were like, we need to divert the funds, and we would find prominent bail fund groups and other charitable organizations, and we would drive the funds towards that. And being the deep-voiced person that loves to talk to people, I would reach out to artists and talented people and just be like, hey, we're doing this fundraiser for charity. We're streaming for charity. Would you be willing to donate art for this that we can bid off for some of our donors, our viewers, anything like that? And through that, we were able to raise more than $5,000 for charity over 8 months.
Yeah.
It was a long time.
Yeah. Oz did hey, you're talented. We have 3 or 4 brain cells between the group of
exactly.
us.
It's just bouncing between
match
us.
Made in heaven. Yeah. And I think the other thing to really pull from your story that I never, it's so important, is like never quitting. We got a lot of non-responses. We got a lot of no's.
Absolutely.
And we have through, I think, all of us through all of the things that we've done. But just continuing to knock at that door, or knock at a different door. Hopefully, actually, don't knock at the same one.
That comes from the
Repeatedly.
costumer, the actor, the whatever I call myself on any given day. It is taking that no and learning just to roll with it. Somewhere you will find someone that will be willing to help you with whatever you're raising money for. And those no's, no, I can't help right now. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. That is not a brick wall. That is not a end of the sentence. That is just another comma in this paragraph, and you got to keep on going and find that answer that you're looking for. Someone that was willing to help, someone that can help you raise that money for charity and get you to where you want to be.
And the sentence metaphor of where we want to be continues with Gabriel onto a new paragraph. Gabriel, talk to us a little bit about your story and how you kind of took your journey from where you began to how you were raising money and doing some awesome things with charity.
I like the sentence metaphor as well, because literature, reading and writing has always been a really big thing for me. I, from a very young age, was raised in a household where things like lesbian, gay pride and what evolved into LGBTQ plus was like, it was very normal. I went to conventions as a very, very young kid. So a lot of like this culture that I'm in right now has just been my life for a long time. And I think that helped me like brew some of those weird, useless skills at a very young age.
Definitely did.
Because like, you know, to come over to people and have conversations and be like, oh no, that's exactly what I've experienced, except I was maybe like 9 years old when I was in that realm. I think another thing that I hear from all of us, and I think is something that has just sort of snuck around in between another useless skill that possibly is a fantastic skill, is patience.
Oh.
A lot of us here, and I have experienced this, and we were just sort of talking about it, kind of snuck in between. You need patience. And a lot of us are able to utilize that patience. And for me, when I was at a point in my life where I did not have any patience left, and I had a lot of things knock me down, a lot of things fall away. I had a single person that came and, with their unending patience, kind of brought me to a place where it was like, okay, Gabriel, you've been doing a lot of things. You got a degree, you got all this other stuff, but what are you doing with it? Do you have a purpose, a drive? And I was like, no. So they kind of put me in a direction of a summer camp for inner city at-risk youth. The summer camp, like a lot of summer camps, charge some $1,000s for several weeks. This one charges less than $100, or usually less than $50 for an entire week of getting out and experiencing nature. And when I went there, of course, I started to bring my useless skills, like teaching a bunch of kids how to play Dungeons and Dragons, and having a lot of kids that did not feel comfortable in athletic circles or in those kinds of cliques, giving them opportunities to feel comfortable, to feel accepted, to feel ready to like come out of their shell. And like all of that started to create this little snowball effect of like, I'm clearly able to be in these positions to affect change, even if it's a very small amount. But to see like one kid one year who was all about causing trouble and messing with people, and then run a game of Dungeons and Dragons, which was the only time that he was patient and listening to anyone. And then literally the next year to see him come back with multicolored hair, proud to be who he is, happy to help out with everything. And at the end of the session to come out to me was such a moving experience. And like to take that forward, I joined on very quickly with like Goblins and Growlers to expand on that, working with tabletop like building communities through tabletop role-playing games. I joined up with local elementary schools to teach, to tutor literacy skills with kids, and like get that bar, because that unfortunately a lot of schools in the United States, that bar is too low. So to bring up basic literacy skills and things like that. And then I started to find that a lot of places don't have the funds to do these things. And so it's like, well, what can I do, and / what can we do? And so with that summer camp, I wound up joining up with their sort of committee. It's like a board. And we put together a humongous social media fundraiser. I've never been a huge social media person, but I know how to use it.
Yeah, it scares me.
Yeah, it's a terrifying system, but
It's
one
my
of those
job.
like, I know how to talk to people. I know how to talk to like restaurants and other businesses and go, hey, would you be willing to give a free this so that we can auction it off at this other thing? And to start like a Star Wars social media fundraiser that through a heck of a lot of work, and boy, did it take a lot of work and a lot of patience.
I was
and calling so many people. My phone was hot every night.
I was overwhelmed for you.
It was quite a lot. But at the end, to have raised more than $20,000 for the camp and for those other like groups. Like I was blown away, and it was one of those like from all the way back to that one person taking the time to listen to me when I felt like no one was going to listen to me, and taking that time to entertain my weird, like, I have this dumb idea for a Dungeons and Dragons game, but you know, I hate myself and the world hates me right now, so I'm not going to tell anybody about it. And they're like, no, just tell me.
Nerd life.
Nerd life. And there are a lot of times when you want to talk about like dumb things. It's things that seem dumb, useless skills. And to be able to nowadays to be that person that can go up to someone else and be like, tell me about your weird things. Tell me about what makes you interesting and strange. On the small scale, and then on the large scale, to be able to raise money to facilitate other groups to do that as well.
Yeah.
And hopefully lead by example.
Something that I hear kind of echoing across the table here is the personal connection. And I want to talk about social media. I do.
We'll get there,
Because
don't worry.
it's my job. But
It lives in all of us.
so I think that one of the things, if you're looking to break into the space or you're looking to, throw your weight behind a charity, one of the things that I kind of learned through 2020 and picking a lot of different charities and kind of bouncing around, if you would like to, you can do that. But I think that what I know I said radicalize once, but what can help push you to kind of identify with something and want to raise money for it is that personal connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that being able to say to yourself, hey, I'm really personally connected to this. This was a huge experience for me. I want to enable other people to have that. And I want to enable other people to feel better through this experience. Needs a really personal touch. And I think that all of us mentioned things that are close to our hearts through pieces of our lives or things that have happened to us that, affected us enough to say, okay, this means that I am going to dedicate some time to this and really, raise money for a charity that is associated with that thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes we roll into it, and sometimes we have really life-changing, huge, big experiences.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we roll and roll for it.
We roll and roll for it.
Yeah.
And we're all tabletop nerds. We're all super big tabletop nerds. Yeah. But it's the personal connection. It's about what you identify with and believe in, and that sort of genuine honesty cannot be fabricated, bought, or cast.
Yeah.
Like you've got to have it in your body.
And it
Authenticity.
Authenticity.
It shines through, and I think it's really a poignant point for us to have this authentic turning point and starts to talk about, now we've given you a little bit of our stories, we've given you a bit of our useless skills, and hopefully at this point you've realized that those skills have become extremely useful to us, even if maybe when we were younger or maybe when we were trying to figure out what they would do for us or how other people would present them to us, they seemed useless at the time. And hopefully we can now make a little bit of a transition and talk to you about how do you use your useful skills to do some of the things that we've done. First, I think, as already identified, like that personal connection, finding that something that you can be authentic about. Because if there's one thing that's difficult when you're doing something for charitable works, the great thing is we all, I think, lucked into. We were doing things for charity, and they were really successful, and that wasn't our. It was our goal, but it was beyond our wildest dreams for everything that we've done.
Yeah, because sometimes you do a charity run and you're like, yeah, maybe $200. And then somebody shows up and they're like, yeah, actually that rules. Bitching. And they donate a ton, and you're like, I'm live on Twitch. I can't react to this the way that I need to.
You see that dono go through the chat, and you're just like, oh my God.
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
On stream.
I fully cried over, we were playing Monster Hearts on Gut Punch, which is, I was DMing, so I was in full, like, I'm pretending to be an eldritch horror, and can I say horny?
You can.
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
So my player, one of my players is like, a vampire, like trying to be real horny with another player. And it's cause it's Monster Hearts. And I watch the dono come in and I go, and then I have to pretend to be a professor again. Like you've gotta separate it out. It's surreal. It's surreal what people will
sure.
show up for and
Oh,
the level at which
absolutely.
they'll turn up. Yeah.
That's that acting skill coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I do not have a straight face. Like all my emotions are on my face at all times.
Yeah.
It's real hard. It makes me I'm not a perfect DM because of that.
Man.
I'm like
and
the little cat, the knife cat.
Great news about perfect GMs. There are none.
Yeah.
There's so many different
Right.
styles to do it, and there's no right or wrong way. Find the one that
it would still be
you.
quite terrifying to see an Eldritch Horror bawling like with emotions
Yeah.
at you. Like,
Bawling.
Oh,
The
right.
black
Yeah.
tears.
Oh no!
God,
I mean, that's
Cthulhu is
pretty
crying.
metal.
Do I cry too? Oh my God.
I would donate out of fear.
Yeah. I would do that out of immense respect.
Oh, absolutely.
How we kind of like the good news about if you want to do some stuff for charity now, then that is very different from when I started to do stuff, and is that the technology that we have now is so accessible to a degree.
Mhm.
As long as you have, if you can clear the early barrier to entry on technology for doing stuff, which is like having a computer, which is difficult to have. For most of my life, I didn't have one, so I get that's a rough one. But once you have that, if you can have a good mic, a good camera, the way that you can digitally connect, and the way that fortunately charities, a lot of larger charities especially, make it easy for you to connect to them as far as like being able to get direct funds to them. If you have a mission, you have a story, and you want to get it out there, we know through Tabletop, which is surrounding yourself with like-minded people who you've established that
you gotta
this
build
is
your
our
party.
goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's more ways to do that, whether that's through comedy writing, whether that's through just performance in general. Those are the things we know best. But I mean, think about what your skill is. If it's art, if it's creating in general, and figure out, okay, well, who can I connect with? What charity can I connect with that connects with my story, that makes this authentic, and then I can do things that I know I'm going to feel about it.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, heck, even if your skill's golf, like
yeah.
Yeah.
people
So
like to golf. Golf tournaments are a thing.
Hit
Charity
under
golf
par.
tournaments.
Yeah.
Go for the gold.
once you've got your network and you've got your cause, I really want to point at Goblins and Growlers right now, and and talk about the available space in which you can say, okay, we have all of these people that I've put together because I think they're all united under this cause, and we have our cause. Now, what do we do, and how do we create a brand around the money that we would like to raise?
Yeah.
Like, how do you kickstart that? And what tell us what Goblins and Growlers does, and then how you guys sort of focus in and make stuff in that realm.
Yeah. We started
about you,
Goblins
Mom.
and Goblins and Growlers.
It's all you.
Just started as a game master collective. Our goal was to lower the barrier to entry for tabletop gaming. We started in a hostel because it was like, this is the easiest place for us to try to create a safe space where people feel like they can come and learn how to play tabletop if they've never done it before. And then we branched out. We got the name Goblins and Growlers because we branched out to breweries, and we started to play at breweries. So we were like, hey, if the game is crap, there we go. If the game's crap, then at least the beer's good. So yeah, and so you can.
And eventually the game becomes good.
It
then.
does, yeah. From the just straight, really awesome beer scene in Richmond.
Yeah.
And we then started to people loved this idea of lowering barrier to entry, creating a safe space, an inclusive space, and we had amazing GMs get on very early, like Gabriel, that allowed us to have. Like we had a time where very early on where 100 people came out to play. 100 people, and we were like, how can we possibly do this? But we scaled and we grew, and as we grew, I think the number one thing that we learned is we created this little goal, this little mission. People gravitated towards it because they said, yeah, this is awesome. And then the number one piece of advice I can give you for creating this space where then you can use it for is don't hold it close and say, this is my baby and I will, sure. But find like-minded people and delegate and grow and expand and start to hit a point where the great news is my useless skills, I also have lots of no skills. I can't do what Gabriel does as far as like what he does for Goblins and Growlers. He's a professional audio engineer, makes a lot of our stuff look professional. He's an amazing writer, and I'm not. I'm an improv performer. If I have to write an actual long-scale adventure, it's an absolute nightmare. I sit there, I look at the blank piece of paper. I remember trying to write a term paper in high school. I start getting sweaty.
The executive function just kicks in.
Oh my gosh.
His arms actually become spaghetti.
It's true.
It's wild.
And then, I can't do what Oz does. I can't do what Vi does. And I say that for anyone who I've worked with. And the big piece of advice that I have when you're trying to, if you start to get some traction on whatever you're doing for your charitable efforts, reach out to others and start to build a community, because then it's really awesome, because then where your weaknesses are, you can find people who have those strengths. Absolutely. And that's when you start to really see, I think, when you start to really see success, like really see truly like thousands of dollars for charity, where you're like, oh my gosh, this really makes a difference.
Yeah.
And it's building that space through, again, establishing what's important to you and hoping that other people come. And when they do, growing, accepting those people in, saying, yes, let's build this, because this could be something really, really cool.
And to bounce off of that, talking about the charity campaign that we ran last year with Morkborg, Morkborg had just came out. I just found out about it. And I found the Discord for Morkborg. And I shot a message in there and I was like, hey, I'm going to be running a charity campaign. You can find us here. Of course, just no need to donate. We just appreciate if you tune in, whatever. And we start streaming, and I see people pop up in the chat from the Discord. I see the artist for Morkborg comment on some of the things that we're doing. And in the age of social media where everything is instant gratification, the worst thing that you can see is seen at 10:32 a.m. And that is not bad at all. Of course, it feels a little rough at first, but if you find the people in the Discord, the artists, the writers, whatever that may be, there is never any harm in shooting a message to them and saying, hey, I'm doing this for charity. Would you be able to tune in or spread the word or something like that? And when seen is the worst thing that you can receive from that, that is not that bad. And just keep going for it. Find other people in the whatever community it may be that you are working for or what you are working towards. Shoot those messages. After a while, you've shot off so many, you've forgotten which ones you've seen. And when someone responds, it's just like, oh, right, that happened. Wonderful. And everything will work out if you keep going for it. That no, or that scene, or that no thank you is not that bad.
Yeah, approaching collaborators and being able to kind of like back off or press in with a lot of grace, I think is a huge skill of yours.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the networking that you do once you've established, hey, we're doing this, we're associated with Goblins and Growlers, this is brand new, but here's the connection.
Exactly.
Is a really huge thing, and that benefit analysis is always a go. Because that really is the worst thing that can happen is no thank you.
Right.
And we're gonna as a quick note of time, we're going to I'm gonna talk about that. We're gonna let Vi, because Vi is absolutely the expert on social media, talk about how that's a very accessible and very useful tool for this. And then we're gonna take questions, so have those ready. And if you have some in the chat, I know we have people who are going to be able to monitor those. So if you have some on Twitch, you're able to ask those there. But I want to real quick highlight just the fact that this is something I'm personally bad at, because any rejection feels like it's a rejection of myself on an existential level. But that fortunately I'm surrounded by people who are really good at it, in people exactly like Vi, Oz, and Gabriel, in that the worst you can get is a no. It's not a decry of your person. It's not, usually people don't even look. It's you having having just the willpower to knock at that door is a really hard, useless skill to have.
Or dial that number.
Dial that number.
Exactly.
But it's such an important step to these things. And speaking of important steps to then, once you start to have that traction, using it to the best of your ability, please give me some social media.
Oh my god.
tips.
Okay. So it is really interesting that you bring up your ability to handle, or everybody's ability to handle rejection, and everybody's ability to kind of, jump off of the constant no's or the constant like, yeah, how am I actually doing?
Yeah.
How am I being perceived on this day? Do I want to be perceived? I don't know. But so I came into the G&T space and the tabletop gaming space with a focus on charity, but as a cosplayer and as a costumer, as somebody who makes stuff, I feel all the time like, you are so selfish. You want to be pretty for money in public, and that seems like it's a useless skill in many ways. But I think that one of the ways that you approach social media, and one of the ways that you approach your brand personally, and your brand as somebody who is going to raise money for charity, is that you say, what exactly am I giving back to people?
Yep.
And I realized that as a costumer, I'm giving people the ability to make things and be exposed to new materials, new interesting stuff, processes, and ways that they can make things with their own hands if they're interested in that. But beyond that, I'm a super visibly queer person, and for a lot of people, I've got some really hard-hitting DMs that I unfortunately had to look at and go, it could not be me, don't perceive me, because I've had people approach me and say, hey, you're living very out as a trans person. Me saying, hi, I just started testosterone yesterday, meant a lot to me, and I appreciate and thank you for sharing that experience. So if you feel at all like you have a small social media presence, or you'd like to apply yourself more to charity, being really real with people that are following you and being really open with your experiences helps them understand why you're passionate about this, and will absolutely increase your ability to raise money for people. Absolutely. As long as you're willing to handle the rejection, and as long as you are willing to put up some serious fence posts around how open you are. Because like I said in the beginning of the panel, I live in Orlando, and there is a concern living in the South, as we are in Georgia right now, of being safe when you're a queer person that lives and breathes and, does a lot of stuff openly for charity. So being able to sort of thread that needle and say, hey, I want to be as open as possible, as transparent as possible, and use that for good. And I want to protect myself and say, these are the barriers that I want to put around it. Being able to thread that needle on social media is super, super possible. Super, super, super doable. And I think that's where a lot of people's strengths lie, because they have done it without thinking.
Yep.
Every time you post about a meal that you've had, or about a thing that you made that you're excited about, or about a photo that you took that you really like, or about, a costume or a con that you were at, all of those are pieces of yourself, and that's your brand. That's where you are. So even if you feel like you're full of useless skills, I thought I was full of a very selfish skill. And applied that to raising a lot of money for charity. And I think that without thinking, you've assembled a brand, and you can absolutely use that. And just, you have to make the connection right in the middle and then apply it. I can talk about, real specific social media things, like how to work the algorithm. I could talk about that all day. You're welcome to DM me.
That's a whole nother panel.
But yeah, that's kind of how I approach social media for raising money for charity, is to say, hey, this is the vulnerable things about my AOC. This is where I'm willing to talk about it. And this is the charity stream that I play him on. For Gut Punch, I am playing a horny priest for a cowboy campaign. And I love him so very, so many horns. And it's a cowboy themed campaign in the Old West. And his whole story is about learning, like, not to break off pieces of yourself in order to help other people. And I think that's perfect for a charity campaign. But that's what I try and do as somebody who, puts themselves out there a lot.
Yeah.
I hope I answered your question.
No, that's perfect. And I think the big thing is, like, share your story. It always goes back to that authenticity, especially when it is something like charity, which has to be this kind of degree of vulnerability that you hit in order to, I think, like, find the ground that you want to be in. And the other thing is if there's a degree of, like, if you build it, it will come. One of the things that's talked about in every panel at DragonCon, and I think is a really positive thing to talk about for people who are creators right now, is just like you have this low barrier to entry as far as if you have the gear to be able to do it, the systems are in place to reach audiences. There also is a ton of noise because of that. And it's really difficult to cut through. And one of the ways that you can get to it is just by being honest, being vulnerable, having that authenticity where you hit that space. And if you like the thing that Oz did perfectly with Morkborg that we didn't know at the time, but worked out really well. And this hopefully gives you some inspiration for how you can cut through this noise.
Mhm.
We were the first people to ever stream Morkborg.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
why people came. We didn't know this.
No, I had
Yeah.
no idea.
Right. We lucked into
Yeah.
this, which goes back to like the luck of just kind of sometimes but we were the first ones ever. So even if people landed on us, they wanted to watch somebody play Morkborg on Twitch. They had no one else.
And then
So
we just have to apologize to
Yeah,
them. Like,
so-
we're so sorry that you stumbled on us.
unfortunately, we're all you have. Yeah.
See, and I go the other way where it's like, yeah, this rocked. We're the best.
We are
Oh,
the
yeah.
best.
Oh,
We're the best.
Number one Morkborg on
And that's
Twitch.
because there's no
Statistically, yeah.
competition.
And so if we can lock in this day and era into being the first at this thing, you can too. You absolutely can.
Yep.
And so I know it's hard because I think about it all the time. Sometimes I'm trying to just figure out, how do I get to this audience? How do I communicate this message that I really feel passionate about? And a lot of times it's knocking at the door and not getting a
Oh, yeah.
response.
Yep.
But every now and again you stumble into something. And I know the other thing too is like having those collaborators to move you through it. Yeah, I would never be where I am right now if Gabriel didn't look at me when I was getting overwhelmed with the cat Central Perk cat charity things forever ago and say, hey, you need some help. I can be there. I can be there with you.
I'm less allergic to cats than Oz. But I'm still allergic, but
And still being there.
Still being there.
And also like the things too that opens doors. I know Gabe has been working Chris Rory and hopefully more as we continue with people who are trying to use tabletop gaming as a way for people to overcome experiences in their lives that have created barriers for their happiness. And using the power of role playing and tabletop to allow them safe spaces to go through that. And it's crazy because those opportunities start to snowball and come out of kind of like successfully knocking at the door and with your useless skills in hand and saying, please, if one of these works, I would love to do something that
and like doing that thing where you present yourself authentically and honestly to people.
Yeah.
Like there have been tons of times where like, there's a handful of people I know that don't do tabletop role-playing games at all and don't even understand it. But then they might go, hey, my brother's son, my nephew, plays these things and also is a psychologist. Could I connect you to? And I'm like, please do. Yes. Like we talk about cars, but nephew and I, we have something hopefully something new and interesting to build off of.
We're going to jump into some questions. I didn't leave a lot of time, so we're going to do quick answers. If you have questions, please message them into chat, or we have a microphone here for anybody who has questions here. So yes, go.
Yeah, go. What up?
Love the hat right off
Loving
the bat.
it.
Yeah.
Everything.
So I have a podcast that has kind of a national and global reach, but not so much a local reach. And a lot of the charities and stuff that I'm involved with back home are kind of local, specific charities. When we do charity drives, what's the best way to kind of keep that local action for our kind of broader audience?
Okay, there's more questions, so we're going to do super quick.
Yeah.
Sorry to...
No, you're
No,
perfect.
not at all.
It's an awesome question.
Yeah, that is great.
My quick experience is even from a national perspective, people care about local.
Yep.
Even if you don't necessarily have that local audience, like people do care. And because the missions are the same, like in many ways, like so if it's a great charity who's doing an awesome mission, people will connect with it regardless of whether they are geo-local or not.
Yeah. And wrap it back to yourself and just say, hey, this podcast is made in this location and this is a charity that we would like to support. I'm really passionate about it because it is up the street from me.
Yeah.
It is super easy to say like, hey, this personally affects me, but you like my content, therefore help. And usually people go, actually, yeah, that dude rules. And we'll
Yep.
do a donate.
We do a big annual fundraiser for VCU Children's Hospital. It could be any children's hospital. We're just in Richmond, so it's VCU, and we have lots of people who come from out. They're like, yeah, that means help the kids.
Yeah.
And to quickly take the reins there, talk to the local charities. Just say, hey, this
Ooh,
is
yep.
what I do.
Yeah.
Would you be okay talking about it, or even not? Introduce yourself. That goes a long
Will
way.
you advertise my podcast inside the doors of your charity if it would help, drive donations?
And also give me some talking points. Help
Yeah.
me. Help me
Yeah.
help you.
Yeah.
Help me help you.
Yeah.
I love
What's
seeing
your
you.
bullet point?
Yeah.
Let me
Question.
go for it.
So
Oh gosh, you're so.
I'm so sorry.
I'm very short.
Yeah, don't worry. We got help. Magic is happening.
So I generally get involved at the board level, and then it trickles down.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they've already had ideas for charities, and when I come up with ideas for new charity, like fundraiser ideas, they all give me blank stares.
Ooh.
So do you guys just kind of do your own thing and then say, here's a lump sum of money? Or do you reach out to the boards first and say, how can I involve you in this thing I want to do?
Digitally, I hit the send money button. Usually, but if it is a smaller thing, so
Yeah.
I've done a lot of raising money for various charities on Instagram. So Trans Santa is a program that buys gifts and gift cards for underrepresented trans youth all over the country, mostly in the form of just sending them cash. Because
Yep.
a lot of people live in environments with parents. If they're 16 or 14, and they know that they're trans, and they're very online, and they don't have the ability to buy gender affirming clothing. So they'll buy it for them dang selves. And that means I DM the person on Instagram and I say, hey, I would like to do this. And they do the organization for me. So a lot of my experience is through trying to connect with not the board, but an individual person who's running something.
Yeah.
And I think if you are interested in trying to do it the opposite way, where you're on a board and you want to talk to somebody who's raising money, and you like a project, just DM one of the people
Yep.
and say, hey, I got money and I want to spend it in this location.
With goblins and growlers, the bigger they are, the harder they are to kind of have that partnership with. The
Super.
smaller they are, usually the easier. But if you want to do it with bigger stuff, what we've done is we've started small and then built.
Yep.
And eventually you get to a point where they're like, you're doing some really cool stuff. And you're like, can we have a convo of some more cool stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, raising money with St. Jude Play Live. Not to speak over you. I'm trying to do this fast, but raising money with St. Jude Play Live. Gut Punch was able to make that connection through another streamer of ours who was our DM, and she had a connection to other streamers through the Destiny and Destiny 2
There you go.
reach. So the connections can be made that way with a large company, but hopefully they approach you and you don't approach them when they're that large.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And that's I think a kind of sad reality
sure.
of things.
Yep.
check your network also. Just reach out and just see. Maybe some people have some connections. We got weirdly connected with somebody who we a nonprofit we always wanted to work with through our lawyer, who also represented them, but we didn't know that. And so it doesn't never hurts to just check and ask. Yes.
Did I answer your question really quick?
I'll try and make this fast. I'm glad you mentioned connecting with individual folks, because that's kind of what I'm working with right now. Long story short, have you ever had to raise money for something and have it delivered to the organization or the person you're raising it for very quickly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes expediency is a big thing. My experience with that is raising money for to literally get supplies to protests,
Yeah.
and to feed people at protests.
Yep.
So in that way, we had to do it super guerrilla and say, all right, I'm going to take all this money and I'm going to put it in my PayPal and I'm going to go spend it all at Target. And I've super done that. And it's amazing how much people are willing to trust you.
Yeah.
But my big thing in that realm and in that way has been, okay, I gotta keep all my receipts.
Yep.
Make
Yep.
sure that I'm doing a really good
Yep.
job. Does that answer your question? Is that kind of
I
what
was
you're
gonna say,
looking for?
Gabe Oz and I also have done things where we just literally, and I know that this isn't the right business thing to do.
Yeah.
We just literally we try to get people right to their donation link of the site so that it doesn't go through us at all. We don't check it. We don't get the write off or whatever, but it just is the right thing to do.
That's
Yeah.
what we did with
Or
Think Think
screenshot
Flat,
the proof. Like if you are offering a reward
Yeah.
for somebody to
Yep.
donate in a different location, if it's not through Tiltify or Twitch or whatever, send a screenshot of your proof to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I will deliver your reward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if it's super
Did we
fast.
answer your question?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to
think
talk after
more,
the panel, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
I can talk to you.
Is there
Okay.
questions on Twitch? Where we at? No. Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Thank you,
Cool.
Twitch, for understanding that our time limits are tight and being considerate. We really appreciate
We
it.
want to run down the table really fast.
Yes, we do. Let's start right here with Gabriel. Who you are? Where can people find you?
My name is Gabriel Perez. I am professional dungeon master and audio engineer for the Quid Pro Roll podcast. Check that out. And you can find me on Instagram at Amethyst Audiomancer. It should say right there, but maybe you can't read it. Who knows?
I'm Oz. I am a cosplayer, artist, and tabletop RPG writer. I can be found on Instagram and Twitter at the Viking Media. And yeah, gonna roll it on over to Alain.
I'm Alain, one of the founders of Goblins and Growlers, inclusive community through tabletop gaming. You find us at Goblins and Growlers everywhere. I'm at the Dungeon Meowster on Instagram. If you want to find me, you can ask me questions at any point in time. Thank you, Catboys in the audience. And then I perform on the Quid Pro Roll podcast and guest in some other places. You can Goblins and Growlers will get you to anything.
I'm Vic or Vi or Vicious Frockery on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all the places. I stream every Monday and alternating Thursdays and Fridays on Gut Punch RP, raising money for I Need Diverse Games. And I do my own little charity work in the city of Orlando.
Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you.
Follow these amazing creators.
Yes.
Thank you all for
Thank you, thank you.
tangibly showing up.
Yeah.
Thank you all for virtually showing up.
Thank you.
Mm.
Looks like we're about to get a group selfie in.